She stood in the doorway with sunlight wrapped around her like a second skin, and for a moment, I forgot how to breathe. The garden behind her was in full bloom, white roses opening to the warmth of late morning, but none of it compared to the quiet tremble in her voice when she asked, almost shyly, if she looked okay. I had rehearsed 100 polite answers in my head over the years, but what slipped out instead changed everything. I told her I bet I could make her stay right here. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness and second chances, take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Midnight Tales. Stories like this remind us that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is open our hearts again. Her name was Alina Moreau, and she had moved into the cottage next to mine at the start of spring. I was Elias Rowe, a landscape architect who spent most of his days tending to other people's gardens because it was easier than tending to my own grief. 3 years earlier, I had lost my wife in a sudden accident that split my life into a before and an after. Since then, mornings were quiet, predictable, and lonely. I watered my plants, sketched designs for clients, and avoided anything that felt too alive. Alina disrupted that routine without even trying. She arrived with boxes, wind-chapped hands, and a laugh that didn't quite hide her exhaustion. She was a pastry chef who had left a long relationship in the city, trading noise for stillness. At first, we exchanged polite nods over the hedges. Then one afternoon, I helped her carry a heavy table into her kitchen. She baked me lemon tarts as a thank you. We began sharing coffee on the porch, always in the daytime, always safe, always careful not to step beyond the invisible line that protected us from getting hurt again. She had told me once, in a rare moment of honesty, that she was tired of being someone's almost engaged, almost happy, almost enough. I had listened, hands wrapped around my mug, understanding more than I admitted. I was tired of being someone's past, the widower, the man who used to laugh louder. The morning she asked about her date was impossibly bright. The sky was a clear blue and the scent of jasmine floated through the air. She wore a light denim shirt, sleeves rolled up, her blonde hair tied loosely back. She looked radiant, but there was a question in her eyes that had nothing to do with clothes. She said she had met someone at the bakery, a man who seemed steady, uncomplicated. He had asked her to lunch. She told me she thought she was ready. I told her she deserved happiness. But when she asked if she looked okay, I saw the tremor beneath her confidence. It wasn't about beauty, it was about fear. Fear of stepping into something new and being disappointed again. And that was when I said it. I told her I bet I could make her stay right here. The words hung between us, reckless and raw. I hadn't meant to challenge her date. I meant that I saw her, that she didn't need to chase affection in unfamiliar places when something real had been quietly growing next door. Her expression shifted from surprise to something softer. The breeze lifted a strand of her hair, and for a long second, neither of us spoke. My heart pounded the way it used to before I learned how fragile everything could be. The truth was, I had been fighting this feeling for months. Every shared coffee, every accidental brush of hands over a garden tool, every afternoon spent laughing about burnt croissants had built a foundation I pretended not to see. I told myself I wasn't ready. I told myself loving again would dishonor what I had lost. But standing there in the sunlight, watching her prepare to walk into someone else's arms, I realized grief had become an excuse to stay frozen. She confessed that the date felt like a test, like she was proving to herself that she could move on. But what if moving on didn't mean moving away? What if it meant allowing herself to lean into what already felt safe? We walked through the garden together, the grass cool under our shoes. I showed her the roses that had finally opened after weeks of careful pruning. I told her how growth requires risk, how you have to cut back what's dead to make room for what can bloom. My voice trembled as I admitted that I had been afraid to let anything bloom again in my own life. She listened, her eyes shining not with uncertainty now, but with recognition. She said she was tired of pretending she didn't feel the same quiet pull. That every time she heard my gate open in the morning, her day felt steadier. That kindness had become more attractive than charm. The challenge wasn't just her date, it was the weight of our past pressing against the possibility of a future. We both feared breaking what little peace we had rebuilt, Loving again meant risking loss again. It meant stepping into sunlight after years of shadow. But sometimes courage arrives disguised as a simple sentence, spoken at the right moment. She looked at her watch. The lunch reservation was in 20 minutes. Instead of reaching for her car keys, she slipped her phone from her pocket and sent a brief message canceling. Her hands were shaking, but her smile was calm. We didn't rush into an embrace or grand declaration. Instead, we sat on the porch in the bright midday warmth, sharing silence that felt full rather than empty. The world continued around us. Birds singing, neighbors mowing lawns, life moving forward as it always does. But inside me, something shifted. The tight grip of grief loosened. Loving her didn't erase the past. It honored the fact that my heart was still capable of beating for someone. Weeks turned into months, and our friendship deepened into something steady and deliberate. We faced moments of doubt. I had nights where memories returned sharply, and she had days when she questioned whether she was brave enough to trust again. But we chose to talk through the fear instead of running from it. We chose patience over impulse. We chose daylight over hiding. On the first anniversary of that morning, we planted a new row of white roses along the fence that once separated our homes. It felt symbolic, like replacing boundaries with blossoms. The garden flourished more than ever, and so did we. If this story has touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and comment below. Your support keeps these stories alive and reminds others that hope still exists in the ordinary moments of life. And before this story ends, I have a special request for you. Comment the word bloom if you believe it's never too late to grow again. Because sometimes the person who asks if they look okay isn't searching for validation. They're searching for reassurance that they are seen. And sometimes the bravest answer isn't polite or careful. Sometimes it's honest. She asked if she looked okay for her date. I answered that I bet I could make her stay right here. And in choosing to stay, we didn't just find love. We found the courage to begin again, in the warm light of day, surrounded by roses that proved even after the harshest winters, life insists on blooming.